Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from SkiEssentials.com. Welcome to our 2026 ski test. Today we're talking about the Blizzard Rustler 10. Fantastic freeride ski. It is a narrow freeride ski, so it kind of blurs the lines between all mountain and freeride, but just a pleasure to ski, and it certainly seems like everybody that we put on a Rustler 10 has a really good time and gives us really positive feedback. We can talk about a little bit of that feedback later in this video. This is the middle Rustler. We have a 9 and an 11 as well. This one is 102 or 104 underfoot, depending on length that you choose. And it is very, very versatile. You know, I think that it's certainly one of the highlights of these Rustler skis, whether the 9 or the 10 or the 11. I would say the 9 and the 10 especially are very versatile. Blizzard uses their True Blend freeride core in these skis, so they do a lot of really cool stuff with True Blend. Basically, they're using different density wood in small little stringers to create the overall wood core. Really gives them a lot of precise control over flex pattern and thus performance. And then we get metal in this ski too. So Rustlers have always used some amount of metal. The way that they use that metal has certainly changed over the years. So now we get basically a sheet of metal underfoot. It's pretty thin metal underfoot, and it's not connected to the 2 strips of metal that we have on the side. So there's basically 3 different pieces of metal in this ski. And I've always thought that it kind of looks and even feels a little bit like a tuning fork, the way that it kind of, they extend into the tips and tails of the skis just along the edge, and they really do a great job of controlling unwanted vibrations and stuff like that. So really cool construction in the Anomaly skis. They call it flux form. They also call the Anomaly construction or the Anomaly metal some kind of flux form. So don't get confused between the two, because Rustlers do have substantially less metal compared to Anomaly skis. This is a 180, and you know, it's a pretty big ski, 180 in length, 102 underfoot. It's only 1,860 grams on our scale here, so actually pretty impressively light considering that it has that metal in there. Something that's interesting as you kind of compare the Rustlers is, you know, in proportion to the overall ski, you get less percentage metal as you kind of move up in width, and I may not have described that as well as I could have, but it is pretty interesting. And then shape here, you know, you get the power and the stability from the metal, and to have a versatile ski, you need to be maneuverable and fun and playful too, and to me, you get that from the shape. So camber underfoot here, and then quite a bit of tip and tail rocker in this Rustler 10. I would say this tail rocker especially is very important, because having that amount of rocker both in length and splay gives the ski really, really quick exit from a turn. So if you're trying to release the tail edge, it does it just on a moment's notice, which I think is awesome. And they're not too stiff either, which is important. You know, there is a supportive flex pattern here, but it's also a flex pattern that you can manipulate pretty easily too. So just a really, really fun ski. Works really well here in Vermont. You actually see a lot of people at Stowe that use the Rustler 10 kind of as a powder ski, which makes a lot of sense, because even when we get fresh snow, there's typically some firmer stuff underneath there. And that's what this ski does really well. It handles a variety of terrain and a variety of snow conditions exceptionally well. It has pretty darn good float for just being a little bit over 100 underfoot. Obviously, the Rustler 11 is going to float better, but this is pretty darn good when it comes to overall flotation. You know, it's not, similarly, it doesn't have as much edge grip as like an Anomaly 102, but it actually carves pretty darn well. We looked at that flex pattern, and there's a decent amount of metal right here under your feet, and you do get a pretty stout feel and good edge grip from this portion of the ski, which is awesome. So they're really fun because you can ski them fast and aggressively, but then you can go over onto the side of the trail or go into the trees or something like that and just make a lot of really quick, fun turns. We had a lot of people on them at our ski test this year. This is, I guess, the third year that we've been testing the Rustler 10 in this form. This blue color is new for 2026, but aside from that, it's the same. And excuse me, pretty blanket positive feedback over the years and in this last season's test as well. Jose skied it at this year's test. He's a phenomenal skier. He's a free ride coach at Mad River Glen and always a pleasure to ski with. And he got on it and was quite impressed and talked a lot about how he could ski it anywhere on the mountain and he'd be very, very happy. He also talked about how you can ski it fast and aggressively if you want to, but then if you want to relax and just kind of like play around a little bit, it's perfectly fine with that too. So it really is just a very, very well-rounded freeride ski that I think a lot of people would benefit from. And it is a little interesting when you kind of talk about application. Like I said, here in Stowe, this could justifiably be your powder ski, but then I could absolutely see it being like a full-on daily driver for somebody that lives out west. And I mean, you wouldn't have to twist my arm if you told me that a Rustler 10 was the only thing I could ski all of next season. I would just be like, yeah, all right, it sounds like it's going to be a great season. So that's the Rustler 10. Beautiful new blue top sheet. I don't even care if you disagree with me because I think it's awesome. So that's the Rustler 10. Let us know if you have any questions about it, and we will see you out there on the slopes.